Episode 13 of the Hammock Life.
13?
Hammock Life.
13 episodes.
It's an unlucky Monday. Hope everyone had a great weekend.
It was a pretty
yeah.
good weekend. Saturday was glorious. Sunday was a little rainy, but whatever. I had a couple beers. It's beautiful.
Got a
And today,
lot of yard work done.
beautiful.
Yeah, my arm still hurt from canning day on Friday. And the lots of yard work I did all weekend. That didn't help.
I
But
mean, we canned a lot of beer.
We did
Friday,
can a lot of
so-
beer.
It was
Can't allow
definitely
it.
only the yard work and the canning, Patrick.
yeah.
I mean, you were the pack that
It's
king,
my
so.
left arm, Julian, so suck it.
All right, switch hitter.
All right, what
I'm
we drinking?
ambidextrous.
We got to open
Crack 'em
first.
open.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Mine's already open, so haha.
Hey, take it easy.
Careful over there. What are you drinking, Patrick?
I am drinking our Kilted Ginger in this wonderfully clear plastic cup to let you all see the color.
Mm.
It's pretty.
It looks very formal.
It does.
It's formally.
I get it.
I have Two Roads Peach Jam.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Peach Jam.
Is it peachy?
It is peachy, yeah. It's
Is it?
Brewed with peaches and a hint of hibiscus.
It's brewed
Very
with
nice.
peaches.
That's what it
Millions of peaches.
Bill
No.
hates that
No.
song.
Nope. Damn it.
Matt killed that song in the tap room.
says. Yes.
I got Hull's Export Ale out of, it says New Haven, but I guess they're New Haven, but they're actually East Haven, right?
Yeah, beer axe, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's brewed out of East Haven. I guess they're out of New Haven.
Yeah.
All right.
Logistics.
I'm drinking Thomas Hooker's Super Duper Double Citra. Bloomfield, right? Thomas Hooker?
Sure.
Yeah, we like those guys.
We like all the guys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course.
And the ladies, too.
I like guys.
So did anyone else not able to figure out if today was Monday at all?
All the days blur together right now. I have no idea what day it is
Every day
anymore.
feels like a Wednesday. You're not sure exactly what's happening, but you're hoping that the weekend comes soon.
That would explain why I sent out random camel memes this morning. So that I guess that's why.
It does.
Mike.
Guess what day it is?
Is there a plethora
it's
of camel
purgatory.
memes on the internet?
Yes.
We're just in purgatory at this point.
We are in purgatory. I don't even know what, I keep watching people, post on Facebook, it's day whatever of the quarantine, and I'm like, it is?
I think they just make
Holy
When
shit.
did you start counting? That's what.
Yeah.
And why are you counting?
Yeah.
Seriously.
It all blurs together.
Yeah.
I don't know anymore.
I'm just waiting for
Yeah.
final day.
I
Last
know.
day of
We can
quarantine.
beer. We're gonna can more beer, and hopefully we'll brew some more beer, and then
Yeah.
we'll can more beer after that.
Yeah, Friday.
Right
we
now,
can't.
that's our
Or Thursday.
benchmarks.
Thursday. We're
Thursday.
Sounds like a lovely plan.
So yeah. All right. So were we ready for this? The hot take of the day.
I
Yeah,
was
let's
gonna
do it.
segue that's the plan
Ooh.
into now the plan is to spin the wheel, but you did that.
You know what? Before we spin the wheel, I got one real
I
quick.
ruined the good surprise on you.
You
I've got a hot take. I know it's going to be quick, so I didn't want it to be the whole episode.
Bill's got a quick take.
Yeah, I do. I got a quick take. It's actually
Hey.
not mine.
A
It
quick
is
sip?
a viewer gave us a comment and suggested something, and I know it'll be quick, so I'm going to do it now.
Ooh, Viewer.
Nick, he said that coffee does not belong in beer. Actually, I think what he said was stop ruining great beer with coffee.
Coffee makes some beers great.
So, I guess I'll start. I think it all depends on if you like coffee or not to begin with. I mean, if you don't like coffee, obviously it has no place in the beer that you're drinking, right? I love coffee, though, and I think it does wonderful things to certain beers. It could be tricky to do right, though. I've had a lot of coffee beers that just taste awful. Taste super astringent, way too bitter. I don't even know the words I'm looking for. It just doesn't taste good. But I've had some of the best beers I've had have been coffee beers. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Coffee, beer.
I mean, I'm biased because I live by coffee. I think coffee is my number one beverage. Then beer.
Yeah, and
then water.
Kevin's daily routine consists of 50% coffee, 45% beer, and maybe 5% food on a good day.
Yeah, I mean, well, the beer's food. It's fine.
Well, that's why I knew this one was going to be quick. So I think it all depends on if you like coffee or not.
Yeah,
That's,
I mean-
that's really it.
I think to elaborate what you were saying, I think it depends on the style of beer. I mean, I know I've had conversations with Nick very briefly in the tap room before. I'm assuming that's the same Nick. He just doesn't like coffee, so then he's like, "Well, I would love the beer by itself."
Yep.
Even if the beer with malt profile presented coffee notes, he's like, "I'm okay with that. I just don't like coffee."
Right.
I think I'm on the opposite, where it's like, hey, if that beer is already presenting notes of chocolate, coffee, earthy tones on the flavor profile. The coffee can just accent it, bring it around full circle. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan too.
For sure.
I would say that coffee, when used properly, is absolutely beautiful in beers, but it definitely does not belong in IPAs or sours. And I've had both of those styles with coffee, and they were wrong. Yeah.
Wow.
Just bad idea. Don't do that.
Yeah, I've never even seen that out in the wild anywhere.
How about a ginger beer?
That
and
just
coffee? Sounds
gross. Now you're just mixing everything together.
Stop.
Wrong.
I'm a mixologist. I mean, no.
I would like to see a coffee brown ale. That might be fun, though.
I'm sure it exists.
Well, so
Yeah.
here, 3 years ago, I would have 100% agreed with Nick's take that coffee should be out of good beers.
Why is that? 3 years
Because
ago?
3 years ago, when I traveled, every brewery we went to had some weird ass coffee beer.
That was like the hot flavor like
It was
3 years ago.
We like and especially down in like the Carolinas, like blonde beers with coffee in them. Like they were the hot thing. And there were some really good ones and there's some really bad ones, but literally everyone was doing it.
That's also the easy way of making, like, I say easy, like a blonde stout.
Yeah.
The people throw coffee in the blonde stout. It'll give you stout-like flavors. Coffee being one of those like grain profiles that you can get from grain. Now you throw coffee in it, right? So you have a blonde stout. Not to interrupt you, but
yeah.
So I think that's why they were at blonde ale with coffee. You're probably trying to get some of those stouty characters.
That it was blonde ale with coffee was very common. My favorite one was actually a saison brewed with coffee. It was out of this world. They blended the coffee they chose worked well with the flavor profile of the saison. It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But literally everywhere you looked had one of these beers, and a lot of them were not made well. At this point, I think a lot of brewers have figured out how to utilize coffee to their advantage. There's been some different methods of infusing the coffee flavor into beer now versus 5 or 10 years ago, giving you a different product. So I think the ones that are doing it now are putting out a very good product that was designed around the coffee they were going to add to it.
I was going to say, I feel like you're also seeing more brewers now having a little bit more of an understanding of coffee and working hand in hand with some local roasters to get a
Hand in hand.
to get a varietal and a roast that works with their intended flavors from the beer that complement each other really well.
Yeah, actually, it's a really good point. Rather than just going to the grocery store and picking up a whole bunch of whatever you could find, or going to BJ's, Costco, buying in bulk, like you said, working with those roasters and starting off with a better quality product to begin with, I think that definitely will make a huge difference.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
It's not like everything, like most likely a lot of times when you get overwhelmed, it's espresso type beans, bold, Sumatra, blah, 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 which is delicious. But if you did see like a sour beer with coffee, you could maybe use a different type of fruity blend of coffee that you don't even get traditional flavors.
Mm-hmm.
It's more orange peel, grape,
Yeah.
all that, grapefruit, all that kind of stuff. You can get that from coffee. I mean, literally coffee is a very overwhelming world. Like you go into a small roaster, you can be blown away by the flavors you get from it. So I mean,
It's absolutely incredible.
I think that's part of it too. It's sort of like, you hear the person who like, I dislike all IPAs. It's like, well, what don't you like about those IPAs? Could be the same idea. I mean, what do you dislike about the coffee? Do you dislike that the standard 9 out of 10 beers have that espresso type vibe? Because there might be one that has coffee in it that does not have that. That doesn't have the traditional coffee flavor. So I mean, either way,
It's incredible some of the flavors that those craft roasters are pulling out. I've had coffees that had bright cherry.
craft roasters.
Yeah, craft roasters. They're like brewers, but coffee instead.
Now I just want Kraft macaroni
We've
and
worked with
cheese.
some.
I had Velveeta.
I
I had Velveeta before I came here.
So
Full disclosure.
Why
and
didn't you
also
bring
too
any
on
for
the
us?
brewing side of it, when you introduce that coffee to the process is going to make a huge difference too. Like if you're doing it on the hot side versus the cold side, etc. So there's a lot of different variables, obviously. So but like we said, I am definitely a fan. So I think Nick, you're in the minority here, buddy. Sorry.
Thanks for the hot take, though.
Yeah. Thank you for the
Remember when Bill
suggestion.
said it was a
Keep
quick
'em
hot
coming.
take?
It
That was quick. Let's spin the damn wheel.
18 hours.
Let's spin the wheel.
Remember 2 minutes ago when I looked at the computer screen because I thought I forgot to hit the record button, but I actually did?
Press the any key.
you want me to spin the
Let's
spin
spin
the
that
wheel?
wheel.
Yeah,
Spin the
spin the
wheel.
wheel.
Right.
Now let's move on to the
The actual hot take.
hot take.
Better be a good
Aggressive
one.
Spin.
It's gonna be something about dogs.
I think
No.
peach is my favorite fruit.
Anything made local is local.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and run with this one because I think this one is mine.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
I know it is.
I absolutely feel that regardless of the quote unquote brewery of origin, if it's contract brewed locally, it is a local beer. It's made with local water. It's brewed in tanks that exist locally, and it goes out of a warehouse locally. So I
Can you say local at least 5 more times?
local. I can only do it 4 times.
Chicken fucker.
Meow.
Absolutely. If it was brewed here, it comes from here, regardless if the brewery is contracting and they're out of Minnesota or Tennessee or Florida or what have you. Brewed in Connecticut, made in Connecticut, local to Connecticut.
That's not where I thought you were going with this take once I saw you read it off.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this one.
I honestly thought you were going to refer to anything local is like locally sourced ingredients within like a certain radius.
The
Like
original hot take was about 7 paragraphs, so I got it down to about 5 words.
okay.
Right. So you're mainly talking about contract
Yeah,
brewing,
fiber.
obviously.
Yes.
So okay.
I
See,
think
I don't
I
know,
think the I think if I'm gonna re-summarize the original paragraph of the original hot take, it was more, some people feel like this brewery's from Zimbabwe, but it's brewed in Hamden. It's a Hamden beer. But some people can look at it and say, hey, it's from Zimbabwe. It's a Zimbabwe beer. So I think that was what the take was on. And Julian saying, hey, wherever it's brewed is where it's brewed.
I don't think I agree with Julian.
I think I
I-
want to try a
Shocker.
Zimbabwe beer.
Yeah, I think
Later.
All right, so I'll use
Brewed in Hamden, though.
Sip of Sunshine as an example. We all know it's the ones that we find in cans in liquor stores is brewed out of Two Roads, and they do a lot to keep that beer identical to what it is when it's brewed up in Vermont. I know
That beer has
they
never been brewed in Vermont.
they take
100% has always been brewed at Two Roads Brewing Company, and
Julie's
Sean
getting
has said
aggressive.
so.
find this for me.
No,
I
so
have.
before, you're interrupting him, but I will add before you finish. What Bill, they did actually make that beer to be brewed at Two Roads, but they
So-
followed their water profile.
Right, that's where I
as
was at.
if
That's-
it was brewed in Vermont.
That was
They-
where I was on my way to
literally,
go before
they've
Julian
never-
interrupted me.
I think they probably have done, I'm sure they did pilot batches
Yeah.
of this beer, but they've never they never made a production batch of SIP in Vermont, but as far as selling it. But I know that it follows a water profile, which I'm assuming you were going for.
That's where I was going. Yeah. So I thought that beer was a draft beer out of Vermont, and not only just cans.
The
I thought-
original was the Double Sunshine, which is what the
Okay.
current recipe is based off of.
Okay.
But when Sean decided to contract through Two Roads, he designed a recipe specifically for
All right.
Two Roads.
So anyway, that's
Either way,
that's
either
relevant
way.
to my point though. So not only just that beer, but any beer, not just Two Roads. A lot of breweries that do contract brewing, they will get water samples from the source brewery and they have the equipment to really dial in and mimic that water profile specifically. And it's water that you're not going to be finding in most Connecticut breweries unless they have the same type of equipment, which we all know nobody does. So I don't know. I think. I don't know. I don't think I can agree with anything made local is local. I would still say that's a Vermont beer. It's used. I
I got
See,
a point,
all right.
but you go.
My definition of local is you are using locally sourced ingredients. So a local maltster, local hops, things like that.
I think he's thinking of it like as a local brewery. Like
Well, I don't care what. This is my take. This is my part of the.
you don't get a take.
So then, are you saying that
New
No
episode,
Worries is
Pat's
not a
gonna take.
local beer from Hamden?
Well, no, like it. That
Anyway, let him finish. I interrupted first.
local to me is like if I'm going to refer to something locally sourced, it's that kind of process. So you can't by that logic you can't brew that anywhere else. So you can't, we're locally sourced because we're using our water, and no one else is using our water, like that kind of thing. Ideally with local malts and things like that. But if we picked up and brewed in Minnesota, it's not the same beer.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So I would not consider that a local beer.
So what would you consider our beer brewed in Minnesota as? Connecticut beer or Minnesotan beer?
Minnesota beer.
So you agree with me?
Damn it!
So you're agreeing with Julian.
I don't like this take. I'm confused.
It's got to be your bowl.
God damn it!
You want a T-bone from, you got to put your hand on the butcher's ass.
It's a trap.
All right, so I'm going to have like a Switzerland back and forth here on this one a little bit. Because I think there's two different things that I look at it as. I look at the brewer side and you look at like the marketing side. So the brewer side, I think you can brew a beer from Zimbabwe in Hamden as long as you have the water profile. Realistically, they're not, like, maybe they're getting some ingredients locally, but it's from a legitimate maltster, wherever you can buy those same ingredients from a different distributor. I think you can do your best to interpret that beer as it was brewed in Zimbabwe. So I think from the brewing aspect, you can do your best. I mean, think of styles. You make a Bohemian Pilsner or a Czech Pilsner, like you're following, or you're trying to, in theory, follow a specific water profile that they did use in, if we're going with Czech, in Czechoslovakia, I can't talk, and it's a trending theme around here. But you're doing your best to follow that water profile using like traditional ingredients that you could purchase there now. Granted, you can't find it in the 1700s, but whatever is being malted out there. And then you're also using hops in theory that are grown there, or at least that is a strain that is grown there. So that's one take. I think the other side of it is sort of the marketing portion. And that's like, hey, this beer is, and I think of it more from like the rarity aspect. I mean, I'm not a rarity person. I don't really care. But like, this beer is brewed in Hamden, but it's from Zimbabwe. He's like, oh man, I gotta get that limited beer. It's from Zimbabwe. Well, it's not really from Zimbabwe. Like, we're brewing it on behalf of a company, and we're doing our best to keep it as essence of that beer. Whomever is brewing this Zimbabwean beer, we are apparently right now. You know what I mean? So I think there's two different balances there. I think that if you're looking at it from the core truth of the brewery is trying to bring forth their product from another area, be it in America or outside of America, bringing it to a certain area, I think you take that for what that is. If you're looking at it from more of a beer hunter's atmosphere and it's literally brewed around your corner, I think it's silly to look at it that way. I think it's more like, oh, cool, this beer is being brought to us in a way that necessarily we wouldn't be able to get it, and then you do get it fresh. You know what I mean? If it is brewed in Zimbabwe, then you have to wait for it to ship, clear customs. This is like the worst example ever. And then,
I really want to know where you tried your first Zimbabwean beer.
I really want a Zimbabwe beer. I'm not even joking right now.
Then it makes it to Hamden, and then we sell it. It's like, okay, well, how long is it going to take to get to your freaking cup, Yeah. So I think that's the cool thing about it. That's why I said I'm sort of on the line here. I just think it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at it from a true beer perspective, I think it is sort of local with a local as far as the accessibility. I think it's a wherever it was from. If you're truly following those beer and brewing techniques, that's my mild take. My medium hot take.
I like it.
I broke everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking still. This definitely broke me a little bit.
Yeah, I feel.
Oh wait,
I
you
feel
can't pay
like
licensing fees.
I feel like I'm gonna go back and watch myself on this episode and be like, I am now
Watch
stupider for listening to myself.
I think Pat's just still mad that he agreed with me by accident.
He's like, I got trapped by Julian. This is fucked.
No, my problem with this take is it's not. I don't like the way it's phrased.
Well, Kevin phrased it from my incoherent rambling, so blame him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, blame me for making it English.
They wanted it in Zimbabwean.
I don't. All right. I think that wraps. think this wraps up the hot take for today.
Should we talk about some local food?
Yes.
Let's do it.
I'm now hungry from all this.
I'm pretty sure Bill's just going to sleep after this episode.
Well,
No, I'm still just thinking.
He's
We're
gonna,
gonna be like
Bill's
3
gonna update-
episodes down the
he's
road, and Bill's
be
gonna
an
be like,
addendum.
I think this.
what he's gonna do? He's gonna go to the video. He's gonna make a comment like shit.
Here's what I was thinking that whole
Asterisk.
time, guys. Here's what I was thinking.
well, as far as food today, I want to shout out to TK's American Cafe out there in Danbury. They're making some of the best wings out there. Great
Oh,
other
yeah.
food as well.
Great variety of wings too. If you like a lot
Absolutely.
of variety, not just basic buffalo, they have a huge
Basic
list. Basic buffalo.
That basic
It's
B.
You're a basic
huge,
B.
huge list of flavors and great beers there too.
Absolutely, yeah, they're fantastic. And when everything is settled down and they reopen for regular service, their happy hour is fantastic, guys. It is buy one get one free drinks. You can't beat that.
Do you think we can convince them to bring back the New Haven location, please?
If you invest, I'm sure they'd be happy.
He tried to do that by buying all the wings.
Bill's a brewer. He doesn't money to invest in
maybe
things.
maybe we'll get a little food truck outside and we'll TK's
There
Hamden
you go.
location.
We'll just put a
And they're
sticker.
doing to-go pickup orders now, right?
Yes, they are
So,
absolutely doing to-go orders.
during this pandemic is what we're dubbing it.
Yeah, so you should
Yep.
scroll down, smash that like button, smash
that-
what?
like button. Whole.
It is definitely Monday.
Ring the bell, press the
Monday,
like,
Monday, Monday.
subscribe,
If
and
it wasn't for
follow,
the fact
bitches.
that I'm the asshole, it has to stop the recording. I would just leave right now.
Guys, it is Monday. I think that's a wrap. For
Where's
us.
that
Alright,
theme song at,
I think
bitches?
we are all
Very
set
nice.
for
Hit us
today.
with the outro, Kevin.
Cheers,
y'all.
folks.
Cheers, everybody. Till next time, keep living that hammock life.